Hey, what's up, Zoners? Welcome to the Start Sit episode for what might be the worst NFL game of all time. I will be going over the play or pause for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is our version of the Start Sit. I will be starting at the quarterback all the way down to the defense and kicker. If that sounds interesting to you, hold on for 7 seconds.
You can do it!
Hey, what's up, Zoners? This is Tyler, Big Turd Ward, and Banjo, the dog, coming at you live from my garage, and this is the Fantasy Red Zone. Today's episode, if you disagree with anything I'm about to tell you, please comment down below. I can change my mind based on new information, and I have all my notes typed out. I will share that with you right now. All right, let's set the scene. The over and under for this game is at 29.5. I think the Eagles and the Cowboys over and under is at over 50. So what the fuck is going on here, dude? You do not probably want a piece of this game, except for maybe one, and I will let you know who that is. Pittsburgh is favored by 6 points. Let's look at the coverages that New England likes to run, okay? Man coverage, 33.2% of the time. That is 5th highest rate in the league. So they are doing man almost more than anybody. Zone coverage, opposite of that, 63.8%, 28th in the league. We're going to be paying attention to these percentages a lot when we look at the wide receivers to start and sit. All right, man. Mitch Trubisky getting thrown back into that NFL fire, man. Not ranked. Because he just played one half of a game last week. I'm pressing pause on this fool. New England giving up the 4th fewest points to opposing quarterbacks this season at 14.0 points. Dude, so Mitch Trubisky gets to come back to the goddamn New England Patriots. No thank you. 3 for 117 yards and a touchdown. Rushed 3 times. That's good, man. Trubisky does like to run the ball for only 5 yards after coming in during the second quarter for Mitch Trubisky after he got injured. So New England opponents over the last 3 games have averaged a league low 8.7 points per game. I think it jumps up to like 14 or 15 points per game. The next fewest points allowed. So, man, they have been dominating teams as far as their defense goes. They can't score any goddamn points. But still, man, the last 3 games that were against the Chargers, that is impressive to hold the Chargers to that few of points. Indianapolis and the Giants, that is not that impressive. Speaking of the Chargers, Justin Herbert just threw for 212 yards, 0 touchdowns. He did have 0 sacks versus New England last week. But again, though, man, Mitch Trubisky, first game back, going against a hot defense. We're pressing pause on this dude. Next up, man, riding the wave with Najee Harris, right? Wrong. Running back for 27 right now for the year. I'm pressing pause on this fool. New England allowing the 16th fewest points to opposing running backs this year at 17.4. That is an average matchup. I'm not afraid of that, right? 16 rushes for 63 yards, 2 receptions for 14 yards last week versus Arizona. He got all that usage. He got tackled at the 1-yard line and did not get a touchdown that drive. The Chargers combined for 24 rushes for 29 yards last week versus New England. That is god-awful, man. New England's defense lately has been killing the run. 3 touchdowns over the last 5 games for Najee Harris. Here is a good stat for him. 11 rushes of 15-plus yards on the season. That leads the NFL. So Najee Harris is a lot better than what we thought he was doing. Sat out practice with a knee injury. We do need to monitor that. If he is out, Najee Harris will still be a sit. But our next running back will be a play. People are talking about him getting outplayed by Jaylen Warren. He outsnapped Jaylen Warren 36-26 last week. And he has not been outsnapped by Jaylen Warren all season. I think they have had equal snaps like once or twice, but he has not been outsnapped by Jaylen Warren, even though Jaylen Warren has been announced the starter. And later on, you'll see, dude, Najee Harris was the starting running back on the first 2 drives of the last week's game against the Chargers. So Najee Harris, dude, I really like him going forward, but not this week against New England Patriots. Next up, speaking of this dude, Jaylen Warren, running back 26. So they have running back 26 is Jaylen Warren on the year. Running back 27 is Najee Harris. So they have 2 top 30 running backs on their team. It's not really what I want, dude. Give the majority to somebody else so we can start them in fantasy football, man. It has been a roll of the dice as of late. So yeah, dude, 9 rushes for 59 yards, 1 reception for -4 yards last week versus Arizona. Najee Harris got 100% of Pittsburgh rushes in the first 2 drives, like I said earlier. So Jaylen Warren's taking a back seat to Najee Harris. That is the recent trend. He had 3 games that were great. Let's see. 10 fantasy points over the last 2 games combined, man. So he had like 4.5 and 5.5 and half point PPR leagues. That's after scoring 42.5 in the 2 before that. So, hey, dude, this guy's floor is this guy's ceiling is this. But again, against a hot defense, I do not want to start either of these top 30 running backs versus the New England Patriots this week. All right, here we go, man. I own this dude in one league. Diontae Johnson, wide receiver 56 on the year. He's missed a lot of time. Come on, man. I'm pressing play on this fool. New England giving up the 12th most points to wide receiver this season at 29.3. They lost their sensational rookie, and they've been bleeding points to wide receivers ever since. 4 receptions on 5 targets for 33 yards, but he did get that touchdown from Mitch Trubisky last week. So that is great. In 5 games with Mitch Trubisky as a full-time QB last season, Diontae Johnson put up 37 catches, 51 targets, 376 yards, averaging 15.36 points per game. And that's in full PPR leagues. But still, dude, Diontae Johnson is the wide receiver to own. That is his favorite target. I remember specifically last season because I was a Pat Freiermuth owner. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here, dude? Keenan Allen held to 5 receptions last week versus New England. So New England likes to take away your best player. But I think that Diontae Johnson's going to be so hyper-targeted, it's not going to matter. The Patriots have played man coverage at a top 5 rate this season. You saw that in the beginning of the episode. New England man defense is a top 10 unit, so they do play well in man coverage. Explosive rate, all that stuff is great. Diontae Johnson and George Pickens rank inside the top 30 in fantasy points per route run against versus man coverage. So this is Pittsburgh's strength in their wide receivers versus New England's strength in their coverage. Let's see how it plays out. I think George Pickens might do okay on 1 or 2. He's just not going to get the volume that matters. Diontae Johnson should win a couple matchups in man this week. Both players are also seeing a much higher target rate versus man, which could allow for at least one to emerge. And the one that I think is going to do well is Diontae Johnson. Diontae Johnson leads the Steelers in yards per route run, 3.76, and receiving grade 75.8 versus man coverage. So both are good in man coverage, but Diontae Johnson is the slightly higher targeted version and the higher graded wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers against man. I'm pressing play on Diontae Johnson. Here we go. Next up, the other wide receiver. I just talked about him, George Pickens, wide receiver 29 on the season. I'm pressing pause on this fool. 4 receptions on 5 targets for a team high of 86 yards last week versus Arizona. That sounds great, but then that was with Kenny Pickens mostly. 53 of those yards were on the first drive from Pickens. Shit, I got Pickett from Pickett. Pickett, come on, man. George Pickens has 10 catches on 20 targets and 196 yards and no touchdowns while averaging 5.92 PPR points per game with Trubisky. That sucks. Single-digit fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. He scored 10 points last week. So if it wasn't for that 10 points, man, this guy hasn't scored double-digit fantasy points in, 6 games? Target rate goes from about 18% all the way up to almost 26% versus man this season. So he will get targeted more than often. But against this defense, I don't think it's going to matter. The lowest over and under you could possibly imagine. I just want to start one wide receiver here, and that one wide receiver, I think, is Diontae Johnson. Next up, man, Pat Freiermuth needs Kenny Pickett. He is tight end 28 on the season. He's missed a ton of games. I'm pressing pause on this fool. New England allowing the 5th fewest points to tight ends this season at 6.7. That is terrible matchup. 3 receptions on 5 targets for 29 yards last week versus Arizona. That ain't shit. Pat Freiermuth had 14 catches on 27 targets and 141 yards and 2 touchdowns while averaging about 8.5 points per game in full PPR with Mitch Trubisky. And I remember this, dude. I was a Pat Freiermuth owner, and then as soon as they put Kenny Pickett in, holy shit, dude, Pat Freiermuth started blowing up. So with Trubisky, he is not the guy that you want to start. He does much better with Kenny Pickett. Gerald Everett had 4 receptions and 44 yards versus New England last week. That was like 3rd on the team, so you can have a little bit of success with your tight end versus New England. Only passed 3 reception, and he only has 3+ receptions in 1 game this season. So he only has 4 receptions in 1 game this season, dude. That is insane. Pat Freiermuth is not getting utilized at all. Double-digit fantasy points in 2 of his last 7 games. Pat Freiermuth, dude, too risky for me. I'm pressing pause on this fool. Hey, man, next up, we have another play. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense, they're killing it. Defense number 4 on the season. Press and play on these dudes. New England is giving up the 4th most points to defense. They're like, oh man, Mac Jones, you want to play? Here's some more points to your defense. Oh, Bailey Zappi, here's some more points to your defense, man. 11.6 points. If my defense gets me 10 points, I'm so happy. They are, they're averaging 11.6 points against them. That's crazy. 10 plus fantasy points in 2 of the last 7 games. Since the bye, that's not that great, but this is a matchup you want to target, the lowest over and under of all time. All right, man, the kicker, Chris Boswell, the Boz, we call him around my garage. Kicker number 17, Pause. I'm pressing pause on this dude. New England allowing the 11th most points to kickers. That's great, dude, at 8.8. So that is a positive matchup. 10 plus fantasy points in only 2 of his 7 last games since the bye. That's the same as the goddamn Steelers defense, man. I do not want that. That is too risky. I want my kicker to get me 10 points, man. Come on. This is the lowest ever over and under of all time. So that plays to me just like that defense. I want to start that defense. But the kicker, man, over and unders plays a lot to do with start sit for kickers. You want high point totals for kickers. I do not want a piece of this dude. Pressing pause on Boswell. All right, everybody, that is the show. Thank you so much for watching. If you do not agree with something that I said, please let me know down in the comments. If you want to give me a hell yeah, then give me a hell yeah down in the comments, please. Hey, hopefully I earned a thumbs up. Hopefully I earned a subscription. If you are not already subscribed, please, man, we need your support. We need to take this show to a whole nother level. Spend some more time on this stuff. Get graphics, dog, stuff like that. Please subscribe. Hey, this is Tyler, Big Turd Ward, and I appreciate you.